Welcome to our group Menswear Research and Production Components presentation by Naya, Madeline, Livia, and Riley. Our fit model for this project is Jacob. In these photos, he is wearing the garments that we measured him in. Size chart comparison, starting with the shirt. We're comparing each fits in chest circumferences and shoulders. It looks like both British and Italian fits seem to be on the larger size compared to the American fit. German fit has longer length but similar sleeve length to the British. The American fit has the longest sleeve length. Overall, British and Italian have smaller fits but are quite long. The American fit is baggy and quite roomy. For the pants, comparing the similar waist size, British fit has the least ease in other areas. Italian has more ease than the British one, but still less than American and the German fit, especially in the leg opening. The British and American fits have similar inseam length, while the Italian and German have really long unhemmed inseam in their size charts. We then compared the fits of the British, Italian, North American, and German fits based on ease from the measurements we found from our model and the brands, as well as the drafting that we did in class. So we noticed that for the British fit, it is more fitted and slim. It suits more muscular upper bodies, and overall the clothing is very conservative and traditional, very formal. And for Italian, it is slim and more semi-fitted, and the tailoring garments are not as structured as British garments. Then we noticed that North American fits, especially based on the size chart compared to the Italian, British, and German, from the size charts we compared earlier, the fit is fuller and baggier because North American bodies are larger, and there needs to be more ease in the midsection because we want to be able to accommodate for tucking in our shirts, but also there's just more stuff in the midsection. And then the German fit has much more broader shoulders, so there's more ease in the shoulders and the chest. And in the pants, there is a longer inseam or pant length because the German fit is drafted for taller, broader bodies. After comparing the fits, we concluded that our fit model Jacob is more of a classic or semi-fitted fit because he has very broad shoulders, very big arms, but he has a slimmer lower body. It's not as wide compared to his upper body, and he also is on the shorter side. And the garments that he wore when we measured him were semi-fitted. They weren't too loose, but they also weren't too tight, and that seemed to be a really good fit for him. For this section, we will now go into the research that we did for the shirts. Collars on shirts allow for the wearer to wear a tie. The type of collar determines how formal the garment is. Dress shirts have collar stays made of plastic or metal that keeps the collar from popping up and stays in place. It also preserves the crispness of the collar. Comparing the Old Navy and Emporio Armani shirts, the top stitching length on the Armani shirt is shorter and the tension is tighter compared to the Old Navy top stitching, which is longer and has a looser tension, which is due to mass manufacturing and needing to make multiple shirts at once. The longer stitch length makes it easier and faster. The Armani collar is top stitch all over, whereas the undercollar for the Old Navy shirt has understitching. Both collars are very structured, but the Armani collar feels harder, perhaps because the fusing material is of better quality. This shirt is from Eaton at Harry Rosen. Even though the fiber content of this shirt is 100% cotton like the Armani and Old Navy shirt, the material is a lot softer and less structured, resulting in a soft collar, buckling undercollar fabric where the top stitching for the collar stay is, and a flimsier fit. The collar may also not have a structured fusing material like the Armani shirt, but maybe something similar to the Old Navy one.
Shirt pockets are usually placed on the chest so the wearer can easily take out or put in items. The pocket on the left side is a chest pocket with a flap and snap closure. It has top stitching to reinforce the pocket. The pocket in the middle is from a high-end brand. You can see the stripes are aligned and it also has top stitching. However, because the fabric is 100% cotton and relatively thin, it looks slightly wrinkled. The pocket on the right side is also made of 100% cotton. Although it's a cheaper shirt, the pocket details are still quite good. It has 2 lines of top stitching for reinforcement and also decorative stitching.
Hi, this is Riley. The next shirt component I want to talk about is the front pockets. They are the closure housing like buttons. Right here I have different kinds from several brands. First one, Versace has covered pocket. There's an additional layer to cover all the buttons in the front, so we can't see them. The second one from Our Legacy, this is a French pocket which has a cleaner finish. And the third one from Sir Menswear is a tuxedo front. It looks like regular pocket, but the top 4 buttons can be switched out for different kinds of buttons. Here's another shirt from Sir Menswear that have regular front pocket. This kind of pocket is pretty common. The second one has the clean finished French pocket from Olympe, and the last 2 are the pleated pocket, where you can see a lip outside and a top stitch down. Each brand has different finishing techniques. The budget brand like American Eagle used chain stitch in the back. The next component is a shirt yoke, which helps with the structure and the hang of the garment. From different brands, you can see they have different design. Thom Browne and Sir Menswear has 2-piece yoke, which seam together in the middle, down center back. Olympe have 1 single piece, with clean finish. Tommy Hilfiger also have 1-piece yoke, but with the internal design. This is a wrist cuff and sleeve pocket. The cuff is there to protect the wrist of wearers and hold the sleeve in place, while the pocket is located on top of the cuff. It's allowed for the opening so the hand can pass through. The most common kind is barrel cuff, which is a rectangle piece of fabric wrapped around the sleeve edge. As you can see from Versace and Our Legacy, it had an angular design at the corner. Sir Menswear's shirt has a French cuff, which is similar to barrel cuff, but it is double in width and flip up to be double layer. Cuff links can be used in both Versace and Sir Menswear. Also, the pocket designs are different. The most common one is a tower pocket, where you can see the peak at the top. Our Legacy in the middle photo right here has a simpler pocket design, as it is hidden inside. Here are more photos of barrel cuff with square corner and rounded edge. These brands have towel pocket except the Banana Republic, which has very minimal pocket design. You can see here that the stitching follow the flat fell seam and make it very clean looking. Just a little tag on the top right here. It is very hidden. And even though most brands have similar designs, the quality of stitching and attention to detail can be very different. Moving down to the shirt hem. The most common way of finishing is rolling the hem twice and stitch along the edge. The stitching quality differs from high-end to budget brand. As you can see, Versace's hem is much more cleaner than the American Eagle. In the middle here, Sir Menswear seem to have bias finish seam. As you can see the hem's edge on the inside and also on the outside. We are still on the hem but at the side seam. Sometimes we'll see gusset and slit there. They allow some ease for the movement. The gusset helps reinforce the side seam to make it stronger. It can also add a nice touch to the shirt, here with different design, from just self fabric to contrast and different kinds of stitching. I really like what Tommy Hilfiger did here. Now we're moving on to our pant research. Let's start with the front design, which can dictate the fit and also overall aesthetic of the pant. Here are the 3 most common designs in men's pants in any price range. The pants from Woo Young Mi and Selected Homme have smooth front, which usually seen in modern or closer to the body fit. You may see some elastane in the fiber content. to accommodate wearer's movement. Paul Smith has single pleat, and the other two brands have double pleat for more traditional and formal look. These styles are usually roomier and more comfortable to move around.
Waistband curtains can be made in many different ways. A common design has a thin bias tape in the middle, but some are simply made by sewing a few pieces of fabric together. It helps improve the structure of the waist area and hides the internal seams. Some cheaper brands have a very simple waistband curtain. For example, the pants on the left front at H&M only use a single piece of fabric. The one next to it is made from two pieces of fabric sewn together and is secured with top stitching and bar tacks. The waistband curtain from selected homes doesn't look well pressed. The fabric may be difficult to sew or easy to wrinkle, so it doesn't look very neat or aesthetically pleasing, even though the curtain construction is more complex. The high-end example on the right side uses pig stitching, so overall it looks very neat and well finished. The bottom of the waistband curtain has two layers of fabric. The outer layer covers the inside and the inner layer is sewn to the waistband. For example, left side CK pants use single needle stitching to sew a straight line, and right side Sermiser use single thread blind stitching. It makes the stitching less visible. It's a high-end construction. Also, its waistband curtain has a rubber strip. It helps keep the shirt tucked in and prevent it from slipping out when we move. It also helps the waistband fit closer to the body. The function of a waistband extension is to keep the waistband secure, and some are designed for aesthetic purpose. Waistband extensions have different shapes, such as round, pointed, or square. For example, if we compare the first two rounded extensions, the second one doesn't look very smooth or symmetrical. It might be because of the material, which is not stiff enough and looks a little bit wrinkled. The closure of the waistband extension also can be different. Some use button and buttonhole closure. Some use hook and eye closure. We can compare higher brand and bridge or budget brand. If we look at the third one, the buttonhole stitching is sparse and loose, so it doesn't look very clean. Side tabs are on the sides of the waistband and usually come with buckles. They help adjust the waistband and improve the fit without using a belt. Side tabs can have different shapes and construction methods. The example on the left is folded and top stitching side tab, and the one on the right is directly sewn onto the waistband. V-notch bag has both functional and aesthetic purpose as a design detail, in providing slight ease when we are sitting or moving, and is usually secured with bar tack. There are many different types of side pockets on pants, and the less common type is the double-welled pocket because it requires more work to make it. And the second example, there's a zipper closure, which makes the construction more complex. And the third and fourth examples are quarter top pockets, which are commonly used. And the third one has pig stitching, which is a technique and is often used in high-end brands. And as you can see, the H&M brand, the cheaper one, doesn't look, because of the pocket opening, looks uneven. It may be because the pattern construction problem or because they didn't press it well. Single welt pockets are commonly found at the back of the pants. The direction of the pocket opening depends on whether it has a flap. If there's a flap, the opening usually faces downward. If not, it usually faces upward. And for the left side example, from a high-end brand, they use top stitching all around the pocket opening. And the right side example, it has bar tags on both sides.
The fly on pants allows for the wearer to be able to put them on their body and remove them easily. The extension serves as additional security so that the waistband doesn't open and keeps the area flat. It also has the extra buttons and hooks in the extension to keep the area in place so the extension of the fly doesn't bunch up. It also makes the waistband durable as this area goes through a lot of opening and closing. The H&M Fly Shield is finished with a bias-bound seam, and there is buckling and puckering on the self fabric due to a tight stitch tension or the stitch length isn't long enough. Polyester fibers do have a tendency to pucker when being sewn. There is buckling present on the bias tape throughout the entire seam and not just on the curve, perhaps because the tape wasn't prepared properly as these pants are mass manufactured. The Fly Shield fabric on the H&M pants are wrinkled, maybe due to the way it was stored during shipping. And on the Paul Smith pants, the Fly Shield has a lining, but there are creases that show the construction of the fly and some notions, and this could be due to the way the garment was stored during shipping and or because of the acetate lining being sensitive. The bias tape seam is also creased at the top, but if it was pressed out, it would go back to normal, whereas if the H&M bias tape was pressed out, we would get creases. The Wales Bonner pants have a piece of thread sticking out from the waistband and shield because maybe someone forgot to trim it, but the bias tape is well done and the top stitching is even and smooth. The waistband and fly is also a lot more structured and stable, whereas the H&M pants might not have used high quality fusing in their waistband.
The crotch guard is a small piece of lining, typically a natural fiber that's used to protect the outer material and provide comfort to the wearer. This flattens the seams by the crotch and makes it more comfortable for them to wear. The crotch guard also provides structure for the seams, reducing stress on them when it's worn. This guard can also be made by tailors to become removable so that it can be cleaned at home when some pants aren't able to be machine washed. This would be seen on more high quality trousers and would not be suitable for like washing machines that it would have to be removable. We can see on some of the samples the differences between crotch guards. There is one that's more specific to providing protection from the outer fabric, and then the two on the right side help flatten the seams more fully and are longer and go into the middle seam. Heel guards and pant hems. They can be referred to as kick tape, which is a small piece of lining that can be a different material, even chain or the same material as the pant, just to provide extra strength on the back of the hem. So heel guards can be used to prevent abrasion, ripping, and tearing of the outer fabric. And so you'll see on two of these samples, we see a piece of kick tape used on just the back part of the hem. This also can provide extra weight to the hem, which can help the trouser drape correctly. We see on the lowest price point on bridge or budget, there's not really any kick tape used or added onto the pant. This is due to manufacturing costs and prioritizing the production of multiple garments over lasting quality.
Lapels add structure and style to a jacket depending on the design of the lapel. The roll line indicates where the lapel fabric will fold over and determines the structure and aesthetic of the design. The pick stitching on the lapel for the Menswear jacket is hand sewn, but there is buckling on the fabric near the break point due to uneven stitch tension or excess fabric, or pulling when the top collar was hand basted to hide the under collar. There is also visible seam allowance bulk at the top of the collar, but otherwise the pick stitching is beautifully done and keeps the lapel flat. The Brunello Cucinelli jacket has a notched peak lapel and pick stitching. The pick stitching could have been machine sewn because compared to the Menswear jacket, the lapel is very flat and there is no fabric buckling and the stitch length is even throughout. The lapel is very clean and crisp. Both the Menswear and Cucinelli jacket have soft roll lines. You can see the fabric is rounded over at the break point, whereas the Paul Smith jacket, it also has peak notch lapels, but there is no pick stitching, which makes the lapel look less flat, and there's buckling on the fabric near the notch of the collar due to the way the corners were clipped and where lapel wasn't pressed well enough. And the roll line looks a lot more flat and less soft compared to the other two jackets.
Patch pockets are usually on the chest or lower front of the jacket, and the second example has basting stitches. It helps the pocket stay flat before it's sewed, and the buyer can remove them later. And patch pockets seams are hidden, and they usually reinforced with top stitching or bar tack. And for the third one, which is on the lining, is not very common, and it also has a button and buttonhole closure, so it costs more. And that one uses triangle shape stitching for reinforcement, and the fourth one is very unique design because it has 2 layers of patch pockets. Double wheel pockets has an opening constructed with 2 narrow strips of fabric and are open paired with a flap. In the first example, there are 2 pockets. The larger triangle flap pocket with a button and buttonhole closure, and the smaller one is a ticket pocket. Both pockets have half-moon reinforcement and are secured with bar-tacks. And the second example has a zipper closure. The third one is a standard double wheel pocket with a flap, and this suit also has a single wet pocket on the chest, and which is held in place with basting stitches. Sleeve bands are functional, and a button helps with wrist movement. The number of buttons depends on the design, and usually more buttons means more formal. The first one is interesting because it has 2 buttonholes stitched in constructed thread. The second one has a larger last button and buttonhole, so it's easier to open the cuff, especially for people who wears a watch. And the third one is also very unique because they use covered buttons and a decorative piece sewn on the sleeve band.
Lining is used to improve the garment's quality and can be found in suit jackets and dress pants. This added feature improves the comfort and durability, while also can provide structure and warmth when needed. Use is added to certain areas of the lining so that the garment can be easily worn over items. We can see on the left garment, we see a butterfly lining. This can help with breathability in the fabric so that it is wearable in the summer periods. This can be seen on lighter materials and also for more mobility. We can see on the left jacket there is a full lining with integrated pockets. This can help with structure and warmth on the inside. The sleeves are usually going to be a different type of lining because it's easier to put the jacket on over top of a shirt without pulling the shirt like up. Butterfly lining creates more movement and much more breathability as it crosses over in the back. Pants are not fully lined. Usually in dress pants, they're used pinking shears to trim them at the bottom, which allows the garment to come on and off without irritation with the undergarments. Overall, lining can be in different types and different types of materials used, but they're created in a jacket to be easily put on and easily off, making it much more durable and stitched in to provide different abilities into the suit. The dress shield and underarm shield, they're basically the same thing. So the underarm guard protects the outer fabric from and the lining from stains and acts as a guard as a barrier between preventing sweat stains and antiperspirant from damaging the material. This is similar to the crotch guard in how it can be made to be removable, but also can help cleaners by cleaning this particular part of the suit, which prevents staining on the materials. This can be sewn in or made to be removable, so it can make cleaning more accessible. So this prevents stains on the material being visible from the outside and protects the self material.
The kick pleats is a component that placed at the garment's hem to allow for movement, but still maintain streamlined silhouette. From the outside they will look similar, but the inside, especially with the lining, we can tell how the garment was sewn together. Here we have single kick pleat with simplified lining that goes up straight from the opening. Paul Smith has double kick pleat on an unlined jacket. It has a piece of facing that gets folded in and sewn onto the inside. Here's more example of kick pleat finishing on the budget price range. Starting with the left-hand side, this is another unlined jacket with double kick pleats. The finishing is very similar to the Paul Smith one. Moving on to the middle photo, we have simplified double kick pleat. You can see that the lining goes straight up from the pleat opening. And the last jacket on the right-hand side has traditional kick pleat, where the lining is angled to follow the pleat.
Now we will move on to our components and samples that we made for the project. This is the color and color stand pattern, which was drafted using a method found on Moodle under CAD and drafting resources, which is why it doesn't look like the Italian method collar. There are 8 pieces in total, including fusing and the undercolor piece for the color stays, which is the same size as the undercolor, just chopped off so the color isn't too thick. With all the layers, the fusing pieces are 0.3 centimeters smaller than the self pieces, and the undercolor is 0.7 centimeters smaller at the top and at the peak, but 0 centimeters at the bottom, so the top collar rolls over. All the pieces walk off. The grain lines for the fusing should be on the bias, but for the purpose of the samples, they were cut on grain to same fusing material. The front and back pieces were punched out from the Italian block drafted in class. This is the color sample that was sewn up. Again, it was drafted using a different method from the Italian book, so it doesn't look the way it should, which is why the shoulders are bunching up because the collar is too long and there is not enough spread in the back to accommodate for the amount of fabric in the shoulders. The undercolor stays piece top stitching is angled too far away, and the undercolor corners are not folded up at the right angle. It should have been folded up as shown in the image on the bottom right by the red line. The undercolor can be cut on the bias, but for the purpose of saving fabric, it was cut on grain. The color stand is also too long on the right side and doesn't seem to walk off, and that is because I was trying to keep the seam allowances folded under when top stitching, but I was also afraid of sewing too fast and hurting myself. But the patterns do walk off. The buttonholes were sewn using a domestic sewing machine. Overall, the sample is sewn well. There would just be some minor tweaks that need to be adjusted.
Sample, I made a continuous band placket with a French cuff. So my pattern is 30 centimeters up from the cuff, and the cuff is folded, and which will be folded up. It comes out to provide that the cuff covers over the seams, and will be cut on fold, then sewn in. The pattern does walk off. You can kind of see on the photo, but the placket is a continuous bound placket, so there would be bias tape also used on this pattern.
Start with the waistband extension, match it up at the center front. Here's the rest of the waistband. This part gets folded over and attached to the waistband curtain. This is a zipper shield, which angle to follow the extension here. And this is self fabric and pocketing. This piece is a zipper facing, match up all the notches, and this is a fusing of this part. Here's the finished sample, starting off with this button, undo the zipper and another button here. This part get looped through here. You can see the zipper shield and the zipper facing with the bias finished. To the back, zipper shield lining, and here's the buttonhole that I marked wrong, which is off center right here. As you can see, this would be the keyhole buttonhole for the final one.
Thank you for watching.